It certainly wasn't just any day for the science team in the desert. Chief Scientist Arthur noticed something impressive during a drone inspection. It was a ship in the middle of the desert. Mark and his entire team went to the ship, and once they arrived, they immediately went inside to inspect the ship. But they didn't know that what they would find inside that ship would haunt everyone's lives. Arthur climbed onto the boat and immediately shivered at the look of the ship. He hasn't seen anything like this before. It was already strange that a ship could end up in this desert, but I could never have foreseen what I was about to discover. As he walked through the halls, he noticed that all the doors were locked, which was quite strange because why would all these doors be locked? Arthur did not find the reason why he should do it. Perhaps something dangerous would be behind those doors. Arthur focused on one door in particular. There was a large door that was blocked with heavy steel pipes and had a large sign with a skull that read, "Do not enter this room. It contains a lot of danger." Arthur hadn't seen anything like this before, but as an investigator, he was curious about what might be hiding there. Arthur felt chills down his spine and was a little afraid of what might be behind that door. But once again, I had a duty as an investigator to find out what was behind that door. Maybe you'll make the discovery of your life. He must seek the help of his peers to open that door. When Arthur arrived with his team, they also reported that they were observing strange things happening on the ship. Everywhere you went, there was just this creepy vibe. Some scientists even claimed to have heard sounds coming from certain rooms. Everyone laughed because there couldn't be anything alive on this ship, right? Arthur agrees with his colleagues that it is, in fact, a creepy ship. He had never seen anything like it before, and how did he get to the desert? Arthur had so many questions he wanted to answer. But first, guys, I need to tell you something. It's a big thing. Well, I'm going to show you the room I just saw. There was a locked door, and I saw a skull on it, but it became even stranger because there was also a light sound coming out. We need to know what it is. Let's go. As they walked through the halls of the ship, everyone was silent because this ship really had a spooky atmosphere. He was so calm, and yet he wasn't. Arthur was under the impression that this ship was hiding something supernatural and was determined to find out what. It was a huge ship, so it took an hour to wander around to finally make it back to that gate. Once they arrived, everyone who looked towards the door agreed that it seemed as if something important was hidden inside. But suddenly, something strange happened. There was a loud noise coming from that room. Everyone could hear him clearly, and when Arthur looked at his team, he could see the horror in the eyes of each of his colleagues. Everyone walked away from that door out of fear, but Arturo did not. Arthur thought maybe there was a person inside that room. It would be very strange because it looked like this ship had been here for decades. However, he needed to give it a try and started yelling, "Is there anyone in there?" He did it several times, but there was no response. Arthur felt a little distressed. It really seemed like something big was hiding inside. It didn't really sound like a person, but it was something from another world that clearly came out of the loud noise coming from that room. Just as Arthur was about to repeat it for the last time, he heard another loud noise coming from the room. Arthur couldn't resist and had to know what was there, so he decided to force the door open. Arthur tried to kick the door open with all his might. Bang, bang, bang. Then another researcher took over kicking. Bang, bang, bang. Unfortunately, even with all the hard work of the scouts, they couldn't kick the door open. They had to use a tool to open that huge door. Arthur and his team went in search of a tool that could help them open that door. There must be something in that craft that could help them open that door. Arthur ran to each room and looked for something he could use. After searching for 30 minutes, he finally found it. Arthur saw a crowbar lying in the corner of a room, and he knew that this crowbar would help him open that door. Arthur grabbed the lever and told his team that he had found a lever so that everyone could stop looking and return to the door. Arthur ran to the door out of sheer excitement. With all his might, Arthur pressed the lever against the door, but it just didn't work. Then, suddenly, they heard the loud sound again. What the hell is behind that door? Arthur was determined to find out what was behind that door. We have to get some tools from base camp and then come back. I can feel that something meaningful is hidden in that room. To avoid getting lost, the next time they returned, Arthur and his team marked several of the racers as they returned to the helicopter. Then next time, they could head straight to the door and find out what was in that room. As they flew back to base camp, Arthur couldn't think of anything but that room. That door intrigued him a lot, and he felt that there was something otherworldly about it. It would be the discovery of his life, and would make him famous. During the flight, Arthur and his crew debated what might be in that room. Because it's not a small thing, several people speculated that it could be a human. However, he did not comment in response to their questions. Consequently, others were thinking of a creature that had never been seen before. When they arrived at their base camp, they quickly all ran out of the helicopter and headed to the workstation, where they were able to grab all the power saws and claw tools that could be useful in opening the thick door of that mysterious room. They found everything and quickly returned to the helicopter. Once they reached the helicopter pilot looked surprised. He said, "I'm not going to fly right now. It's too late and too dangerous." Arthur would not accept this. He was convinced that he had found the discovery of his life. They must go now. Arthur tried to convince him with all his effort, but unfortunately, the pilot did not give in. It was too dangerous to fly right now in the middle of the desert. The pilot simply didn't want to risk his own life for it. Arthur understood the pilot's decision and agreed that they would return tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., but not later. As Arthur lay in bed, he just couldn't sleep. That door was etched in his memory, and he couldn't think of anything else. Perhaps something had already been written about the ship on the internet. Arthur quickly grabbed his laptop and started searching the internet. He opened his laptop and began searching for a deserted ship that had disappeared. Time flew by as nearly an hour of searching passed. Then, suddenly, he discovered something on the internet. Someone had written something about the shipwreck. A famous researcher I knew, named James, mentioned something about a ship in the desert, and it was the exact same place where Arthur is now. Unfortunately, the content was censored, so not much was written about it. However, Arthur had his connections in the world of research. So let's make some phone calls, he thought. Arthur called a good colleague of his with whom he made many discoveries. I knew this friend had even more connections than Arthur, so he might have James's number. Arthur called him and explained the situation, and it turned out that he had the phone number of the scientist James. Arthur shone with energy. He could call the one man who had also been on that ghostly ship. He typed the numbers into his phone, and yes, the phone rang. A few seconds passed when Arthur heard a voice. "Hello, who is it?" Arthur explained to James why he was calling. He explained that he had discovered the ship today and told all about the mysterious room where all the noise was coming from. Arthur noticed that James was acting a little dark and paranoid. He didn't sound like the famous scientist in the interviews Arthur had seen. James told Arthur not to come back. It will follow him forever and destroy his life. James asked if Arthur could promise him that he would not return to that ship. Arthur was very surprised by this strange conversation and asked why he couldn't get back on that ship. Then James said, "That ship is haunted. I can't say anything more about it. It turned my life upside down. Now I'm in a nursing home. Just promise me you won't come back." I have to hang up. Goodbye. Arthur felt weird about the conversation, and he was also a little scared by all the things James was saying. What should Arthur do now? Arthur decided not to follow James's advice. Arthur is a research scientist, and perhaps this could be the discovery of his life. Arthur just felt like it was, and he was too curious about what might be hiding in that room. Tomorrow morning, I would go back to that ship and find out what was in that room. Arthur woke up before the alarm even sounded. He went to the dining room where all his co-workers were already having breakfast. One of his colleagues asked if Arthur had done any more research on the ship. Well, did you, Arthur? Arthur thinks and thinks, but eventually decides to keep the phone conversation a secret. He replied, "No, I couldn't find anything else about it. Only one scientist mentioned anything on the internet, but everything was censored, so I couldn't find more about it." Everyone believed it and returned to their rooms to prepare for the expedition. As they walked to the helicopter, everyone on the team was excited to get back to the ship. Arthur felt a double face from the conversation he had with James. It could put your team in jeopardy here, so are you making the right decision to keep that call a secret? Arthur decided to keep it a secret and climbed aboard the helicopter. As they flew into the desert, Arthur kept thinking about what might be in that room. He would finally know if this ship would make him a famous explorer or haunt him forever. They arrived at the aircraft after almost an hour of flight. They knew they were prepared this time because, with those tools, they could surely force that door open. Everyone was excited to find out what was in that room, while Arthur and his team walked through the halls. Everyone looked into each other's eyes and was shocked to see what this ship looked like now. Everyone noticed something different than the last time they were there. Some doors that were also blocked were no longer locked. This was very strange because those doors didn't open on their own. Someone must have done this, but who? Arthur felt chills all over his body, and when Arthur looked at his colleagues, he could clearly see the fear in their eyes. However, Arthur was persistent regarding this ship, saying, "We can be famous guys. This could be the discovery of our lifetime, and we will forever be known as the famous explorers who discovered the strangest thing of the centuries. We have to keep going." It took a while, but eventually everyone agreed to continue. So let's go to the particular room. Arthur had put markings in the hallways, so he knew exactly where that door was. And when they arrived, he saw that the door was still locked. The team immediately sprang into action and set up the right tool set to be able to open that door. Then they started drilling and immediately heard that loud noise. Everyone was shocked by the noise, but everyone was determined to find out what was behind that door. So they continued drilling. They kept hearing that noise over and over again. It seemed like something didn't want that door to be forced open. No one on the team was intimidated by the noise anymore. They were almost there, just inches away. Then, finally, after some hard drilling work, the door opened. Arthur slowly walked over to the room and used his flashlight to observe the room, and then suddenly something large rushed away. What was that? Arthur thought, but there was no time to lose, and Arthur kept chasing him. Arthur saw that behind that door there were other corridors, which seemed strange to him, because he thought it would be a single room. But he could clearly see that something was escaping, so he was able to follow him. Then, as Arthur approached, he could get a good look at what it might be. He looked like a person. So Arthur shouted, "Stop! Stop! Stop!" He or she didn't listen and kept running. So Arthur gave his last glimpse of the energy and ran as fast as he could. Arthur walked over and immediately jumped on the person. He or she resisted violently, and Arthur smelled a horrible smell coming from this person. Then Arthur was able to control the person, and when he turned around to see the person's face, Arthur was shocked. It was the scientist who talked about the ship on the internet. Arthur was so confused about what this famous scientist was still doing here. The internet post was from years ago. So has it been in this boat for years? Researcher James fell in love with this ghost ship and didn't want to return to civilization. Arthur asked to go back to him, but James wouldn't. James also didn't want Arthur to reveal this to the world, and Arthur respected this and agreed not to tell anyone about this. Arthur and his team jumped ship, and everyone was disappointed that this discovery wasn't the discovery of a lifetime. You like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.